This is Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.
Allow me to take this opportunity to condole the Republic of South Africa, the President of South Africa, President Maposa, and the people, but more especially allow me to condole the people of KwaZulu-Natal for the tragedy there. I'm told that we are now looking at about 440 people thereabouts. And Malawi has just gone through the same calamity. And so it's a difficult time. And my condolences to the families that are mourning at this point in time.
What would be important during moments like these, and also considering, for instance, the impact of the devastation and thinking about the impact that has on the family unit, and more specifically, the women?
I think what is extremely important at a point such as this is that there must be political will. We must be prepared as a region, both as a region, as AU, as the national governments, to come in, quickly step in and support families that are faced with such tragedies, because these have no warnings, they just come. And it takes a country that is prepared to face and mitigate situations such as this.
Yeah.
So that the suffering of the people is not so bad.
Yeah, and that suffering of the people, we've always had this conversation, always been told about the impact of climate change, and more specifically, again, the impact that climate change has on, and I'm not disregarding the impact that it has on men, because it also has an impact on men, but the devastating impact that it has on women. And I'm thinking now about the African Union, because the African Union has said that it's donating just over 2.2 million rand in relief aid. But what else then, from a holistic view that encompasses all of the member states of the African Union, can a conversation be, or what should that conversation be about the impact of climate change?
That's what I said earlier. I truly believe that even at African Union, 2 million rand for a whole country like South Africa is not adequate. So, and then at a time when most countries in the Southern Africa are passing through the same. Therefore, my view is that African Union must now have a special fund, whether it is by contribution from national governments, and then governments themselves having a very strong base, prepared to face such calamities in their countries. There is nothing like going to bed today with a house and tomorrow you have no house. And then maybe you have lost a family member. And as a woman, you must still continue to fend for your family, especially at grassroots level. In our country, the part where this cyclone Anna passed, is an area which is typically rural-based and poor people. So then the question then must be, what are they doing? How are the women managing to run their families? Child-headed households, women-headed households. How are they passing through this? A government must step in to make sure that they have opportunities and facilities and donations from all over the world, from the diaspora, to make sure that the countries are safe. But in front, at the top, must be the African Union. And so I don't know how the African Union will mobilize those resources, move in quickly the way they did with COVID, make sure that there's a special fund, whether by contribution from member states, to make sure that at a time such as this, every country receives a donation from the African Union, so it doesn't look like it's being selective.
Yeah. Is that the reason why also when we have conversations about transformation and inclusivity, and now speaking now about gender here, why it is important to have that representation at the decision-making table? Because that representation at the decision-making table also brings about a different perspective outside of what we would see, for instance, a UN report would say about the experiences of women. But now you actually hear it from somebody who lives and experiences life of being a Black woman, especially.
Yes, what I have always said that our societies will change when we take the other half of our human resource seriously and make sure that together we shape the destiny of our nations. We develop our nations together. I'm talking about opening space at the policy formulating tables and make sure that women are also integrated. Women are participating in decision making. You find that when a woman gets in a position of leadership, the first thing she does is to look around for women to appoint to decision making positions. And then at a time such as this, they bring in a special contribution, decisions and actions, things like even what we are seeing in KwaZulu-Natal. And when I say appoint women to positions of leadership, I'm talking about women that are already there, that are qualified. So we are not talking about window dressing. We are talking about appointing women on merit. This Africa stands to benefit if women are participating, are sitting at the table, the policy formulating tables.
Yeah. And then how then do you have that conversation about meritocracy when it comes to women? And the argument from some women has been that men don't have to jump the same hurdles. They don't have to be extra in the work that they do. And even if they do make a mistake, there is the president so-and-so has made a mistake if the president is a male. But if it is a female, if it's a woman, then you are told that we told you that you can't have women in these positions, in decision-making positions.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a challenge. But maybe I must very quickly say that women are not asking to participate in leadership now. Women have always been leaders. If you look before colonization, African women were already leading their nations. And I mean, you look at Ghana, even my own country, Malawi, we had a warrior called Namlonge. So we've done it before. All we are saying is that, in fact, if you read, if you research, you will find that, in fact, it was colonization that set us back. Because those that colonized us, some of them did not have women in leadership positions in their countries. And so they didn't know how to incorporate us in the structures. But what happened in the 50s when the Nkrumahs and the Nyereres and the Mandelas started speaking out about self-rule, we stood to the occasion. So women like Winnie Mandela, Rose Shwambo, and so on stood up and joined their brothers in fighting for self-rule. So we are saying that we should participate in leadership. We are not just talking about things that we don't know. We are not asking for anything new. We are saying this is what Africa has been, and therefore we want to get back there. But I also must hasten to say that Africa has done better than most continents. Look at America, they're still trying to get the first woman into state. Africa has had 6. And the 6, in fact, they have done now research that those that some of them were maybe transitional leaders and so on, for the past 50 years or more, we have had 22 women in Africa. So, but right now we are looking at 6 over the past decade. Those 6, whether they came in before because they were running mate and the president died, but they were elected vice president first. So we have had 6, and the country with the highest number of women in parliament is on the continent of Africa. So we have not done badly, but my point is that we have still got a long way to go, and that we have to take that matter seriously if we want to see any meaningful development on our continent.
Yeah,
I think women participate.
I think the other part around it is also because now, as you mentioned, if you look back into history and women leadership, is the erasure that has also taken place of women who have been leaders. Because I know of many Black, especially South Africans, who were born in a house where it was a single parent headed household, and that single parent most of the time, if not always, is a woman. So they've actually played that leadership role, not in a position of being president, but right there at home to make sure that there is food.
Across the board, the women have taken the lead. And in our societies, where men eat first and best and most, they have also become the beneficiaries of our economic activities. So we go, we hustle, we do business, we're in the informal sector, we are in the market, and to agree with you, then we get back home, we put food on the table. So we have played that role right from grassroots. But to agree with you, what you said earlier, the problem we are having is that if you look across Africa, we have had 6 in the recent past, 6 female presidents. If you go back and check how they lived, it is only Ellen Sirleaf that finished her 12 years. The rest of them, if they stay 4 years, they're lucky. But most of us have been there 2 to 3 years. It's as if the patriarchy went to sleep, woke up, you are sitting in the office, whoops, what happened? And they're busy now finding ways of getting you out.
Why is that the case? Why is that the case, Doctor? Because I was actually listening to the speech that you delivered also at former President Nelson Mandela's funeral, where you also spoke about the backlash that there was just before your appointment, including the assassination attempt.
Yes, because the problem is the patriarchy. Men struggling to accept that a woman is in state house. And usually it's not, when you go down grassroots, the people that you serve, they find that they have fallen in love with you and you are very popular. It is the problem comes with your detractors now, your enemy, your opposition. They struggle, they find ways, and we women are not very good at playing the dirty politics. What we know is when we get into the job and we must try our level best to do things right. And by doing things right, I'm talking about our focus on social issues, our focus on issues that negatively impact on the poor. You want to correct that. You want to do things right. And half the time you are told, no, that's not how we do it. This is the way we should know, but that's not the right way to do it. No, but that's how it is done. So you want to get in there also to change. You want to get in there also to appoint fellow women, which now meets a lot of resistance at times. You want to get in there and focus on social programs like education and health for the people that you serve. Though that then becomes different. She's wasting time on things that are not important. At the end of the day, that is what is important. What is important when you become a leader is that you take the people and put them at the center stage. You must fall in love with the people you serve, and the people must fall in love with you. That is by Joyce Banda of Malawi. That's what I've always said. So when you fall in love with the people, you will not allow anybody to exploit them. You will not allow anybody to steal from them. You will not allow anybody to mistreat them. You will do the best that you can to protect the people that you serve. But then if you look at all my colleagues, me and those that are that have been in office and in office now, men have ways of pushing things, especially through media now, so that that person, his image is completely tarnished. And when that happens, then they push you out whether you like it or not. It's only the people now that love you, that you have served well, are voiceless. So they sit there and mourn because there's nothing they can do. But my point to women now is that you can't shy away from leadership, because those of us who have been there have been mistreated or abused, because somebody has to do it. And if we don't do it, nobody will do it. So we must push, and we must take the lead. And those of us who have been in leadership like me must offer our shoulder for the younger leaders coming up so that they don't face the same challenges that we faced.
But it's also, I think, with the conversation that we're having now is, well, we're speaking about women are capable, and they've shown that they are capable, is that also being careful about not creating this idea that women are a homogeneous group and all of them are pro the emancipation of women and pro the participation of women in position of power. Because sometimes you also do find women who are actually custodians of patriarchy.
Yeah, true. And what I have said is that even if you look at household level, I've told my fellow African women that it is our responsibility to build men in future leaders, future men of our society that are different, that are gender sensitive, that will be the men that we are looking for. It is us mothers who have the responsibility to mold those characters at household level. Isn't it me as a mother who tells my son not to cry like a girl? Isn't it not me, my son, as a mother, who tells my son not to come into the kitchen because the kitchen is not his place? Isn't it me who insists that the girl child should not play with boys because her place is in the kitchen helping me? So it is when that kind of socialization at household level that is pushed, that is propelled by mothers themselves, that is having a negative effect later on. Therefore, to agree with you, it's very important that we mothers take responsibility from day one. In fact, I've written a book titled From Day One. And if you read that book, which is on the website of the Global Center for Global Development, I'm talking about the girl child from ages 0 to 10. What is it that is happening at household level that stands in her way, that affects her growth and the progress? So some of the things that you're mentioning are in that book. In that book, I'm talking about the difference, the way we treat our daughter differently from our boy child. And therefore, I'm even a patron of an organization called Think Equal. And Think Equal is pushing for the introduction of rights education from age 3, from early childhood education center.
And Dr. Banda, you also speak then about how the media is then also used and used to also influence the perception of the people. Some would even argue that you probably became a victim of that with the Cashgate scandal in Malawi as well. But then how do we navigate that particular position? How do we navigate the importance of the role of the media, but then also ensuring that the media also doesn't become a perpetrator?
No, the media is a perpetrator, whether you like it or not. The South African media was even the worst perpetrator in my case, because they didn't even take the trouble to check what was true and what was propaganda in Malawi. And if you go online, people who have done research, they have found that the South African media took whatever they had from Malawi and build up this narrative. What the first thing that a leader must do on this way to leadership, or as a leader already, is that negative media will come. And it is vicious and it is bad. What we need to do as women is we must also find ways of clearing our name along the way. Don't just sit back. For me, some of the things that were said about me, even in the South African media, I could have sued. But the trouble women have is that they don't have the time, they don't have resources. What happened in my case is that I had an international team of friends, of a network that came together, engaged lawyers, went to court. I won the case at defamation court in Malawi. They went to Interpol. They cleared my name there and found that the Malawian media were lying. They went to, and then I myself, as a leader, you must also take steps to make sure that you clear your name. So the moment Cashgate came, I asked the British government to engage a foreign audit firm, Baker Tilly audit firm, to come and audit. So to carry out a forensic audit in my government during my time. That report is online for everybody to see. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, yes, it will go, you will get cleared, but they leave a stain, which is not fair. But you must continue to clear your name, because there's no other way. You must make sure that people are held accountable as far as you can go. But some people are not as lucky as me, that have friends that could step in and help with resources to be able to fight back. But to fight back we must, but it is bad. Right now, it's bad. That is number one. Number two, the other problem we're having is gender-based violence. Gender-based violence, even on this journey to leadership. I don't know if you know this, but women are being beaten, women are being stripped naked while campaigning for elected office. So as if not having enough economic resources is not enough, they are also being treated badly. One, they have to have money in order to compete with their male counterparts. In other places, there's no affirmative action. You have to compete on equal ground. So you must have money. So that is the biggest challenge they have. So you find that those that can find money, maybe they're not even the quality for leadership to go to parliament. But then there is this nasty war against women aspiring for elected office. That is keeping professional women and our cream out of the fight, because they don't want to campaign, to become an elected official, and then they have to go through all this dirty stuff when they have professions that are comfortable, that could keep them away from all that nasty stuff.
Is there then, just in conclusion then, Dr. Banda, is there then something to say about society itself? Because at the end of the day, it's society that votes. And when you look at the makeup of the African Union, it is quite frankly a boys club. And then on top of that, you also have a phenomenon where you have some presidents who want to stay in office and die in office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are several issues that I can talk about. Number one, even at the African Union, former male leaders are treated differently from female former leaders. That's one thing that you should know. So it's a war all the way up. If I get to Addis Ababa at the airport, and I am arriving there with a former male head of state, the former male head of state will have a car and a driver, take him to the hotel, and I will not. So that is agreeing with you. It's a boys' club. So I don't know when you get there what they look upon you as. That's number one. Number two, what I think needs to happen is that the women leaders, which we have already done, form strong networks across Africa. One of them is the African Women Leaders Network, which was formed by Pomizile at UN and the Binta at the African Union, jointly invited a group of us, and we formed what we call the African Union, the African Women Leaders Network. African Women Leaders Network is looking at women in education, women economic empowerment, rural women in agriculture, so that we take responsibility to support our fellow women. And it is intergenerational. We have two strong organs, one of my age and the other one of young women leaders. That now has got local chapters. What I have found on my journey is that mobilizing ourselves and raising our voices on behalf of those that can't raise their voices is the best way to go. So right now, for me, what this African Women Leaders Network has done is, one, to launch a women's fund to make sure that they support women in business. But this also must raise their voices about equal participation in leadership. So we've just concluded an intergenerational conference in Malawi that I convened along with my fellow women leaders, discussing between us. Helen Selif was here in Malawi. Joyce Munjuru was here in Malawi. And I'm just truly grateful that my colleagues across Africa traveled to Malawi to have a conversation with local women leaders. That must be regular. We must be doing that in all countries. We must learn to offer our shoulder to younger women leaders. They must not suffer the way we suffered. We must provide that support. But in order for that to happen, they must be talking to us and we must be talking to them.
Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Joyce Banda, former president of Malawi, appreciate your time. It is time for the news headline.
Aldrin Sampear on Beyond the Headline.